The Minister of Mineral Resources and Energy, Gwede Mantashe, says collaboration between government and the private sector is important to ensure energy availability in the country. Mantashe says partnerships are a better and less risky option for energy security.
That's why partnership is much better than replacing public capacity with private capacity. Partner the two capacities and supply energy to society. You see, ESCOM, the old ESCOM, which we must not dismantle easily, used to be very strong and effective across the value chain, from generation, transmission, and distribution. We've weakened it a great deal in distribution. It is not as strong as it is in generation. We didn't build that capacity. The Kusile Mitupi Ingula project was almost a disaster. Wrong design, wrong that, and that weakened ESCOM on generation. And now with the pressure of ESCOM in the IRP, you'll notice that we've given ESCOM the right to get into renewables. I have not seen that move, despite policy allowing it.
However, former Finance Minister Nhlanhla Nene says while public-private partnerships are important in economic growth, the private sector must also be willing to shoulder the risk shared with government when the going gets tough.
This issue of risk sharing is something that, one, the private sector must not trick government into, taking over the risk when the goings get tough. It must be something that is built on a sustainable relationship where government and the private sector understand each other's pain points in terms of, when does the private sector take the pain when things get to this point, so that government also has systems and mechanisms in place to be able to mitigate.
On the other hand, as the country navigates its way to achieve the just energy transition by 2050, South Africa still heavily depends on coal-generated electricity. Minister Mantashe says the country cannot be forced to do away with coal without ensuring that the new power generation becomes more reliable before getting rid of the old source of energy.
Make sure that you strengthen the new to a level of reliability before you dismantle the old. Now, I took that as a very, very important advice that sometimes when we talk, a debate that is polarized, want to rush into what is new and actually collapse with the new, having dismantled the old. So they say, ensure that the new is strong enough, is reliable, you can trust it, then you dismantle the old. I think that's a good advice for us for the transition. Because the transition has been described in many ways. Some have described this transition as moving from coal to renewables. Far from facts, it's not factual. It is movement from high carbon emission to low carbon emission. And that low carbon emission, that transition, which is a journey, is going to have diverse pathways. And we must actually use all those pathways to ensure that our transition doesn't collapse us.
Meanwhile, Mantashe told delegates at the forum that the delayed draft integrated resource plan will be released for public comment next week. The draft plan was due out in March, aimed to replace the current IRP plan, serving as a blueprint policy for electricity generation. Nothando Makutulela, SABC News, Johannesburg.